in my library here. And so I hit create, and there we go. And now it is asking about a new track. A track is a single part or a single stream of music. And in that track, that's one thing that you can play. One thing that you can play and record in. You can layer tracks, which we're going to see, and we're going to use our microphones for this. And it's asking if it can use my microphone, and there it is. And so now at the bottom of the screen, you can see that the microphone is picking this up. So this is track 1. Sounds are going to go in this timeline when I record them. And down here, source, this is telling me that the microphone is that. If we hook instruments up to your computer or any of that kind of thing, we can, alter that. This seems pretty straightforward. Okay, so microphone is pretty sensitive. You can see it's peaking, which is like up near the top there, so I'm going to not be really loud. And I'm going to get rid of that, so I'm going to close that source screen. So at the top of the screen, I'm just going to go through. You've got file for download. You've got edit with a couple of things. You've got view, which we'll get into. You've got various settings, which we will get into later, and then a help menu. This is the undo and redo buttons for if you make mistakes. This is the cycle regions button that allows you to repeat something over and over again if you're trying to edit it. This is the cut tape here button, which since I've got no sound, I can't enact. And here are my playback controls. This is the tempo, the speed of the pulse if I'm using like a steady pulse, which we talked about, 120 beats per minute. This is how we're grouping the pulses, the time signature in 4/4. This is the metronome that allows us to hear the pulse or not hear the pulse. I'm going to keep that off because this is not a piece of music with a beat. And those are the metronome settings, and here's my volume. All right, we're going to get into this stuff later. First, I'm going to record some sounds. So here are some sounds. I'm going to just snap my fingers and clap my hands. Great, so there's some sounds. And now various things turn on. I can undo that, which would erase the recording. I can loop part of that. And so when I click this, this banner lights up and I can drag the length of that, and whatever part is highlighted will loop over and over. Now, I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to turn that off. And this is to cut. So if I play this back, right, there's all the sounds. Let's say I just wanted to work on this one spot and I wanted to hear that. I would turn on my cycle regions, right? So this is the cycle. And now I would move that so it just is the part I want to hear. Now if I hit play, it's just going to do that one thing. Great. So I'm going to turn that off. Now, I can cut and isolate one individual sound, and I want to talk about that in a second. So this is our slice at playhead. And so let's say I just want that sound, right? So here's my zoom controls. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to put the playhead at the beginning of that sound, and now I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to put it at the end there, and now I'm going to cut again. And now I'm going to highlight just that, and all the normal commands of a computer work. So Command C will copy, Command V will paste, and Command X will cut. So now I've got this thing isolated. I'm going to add another track, and it's going to, be the same, so it's going to be voice. And I've got 2 tracks here. And so I'm going to Command C, copy that, and you can see this track is lit up. Now this track is lit up, that's activated. And now I'm going to Command V, and this has been copied here. And I can do that over and over and over again. So now, if I want to not hear this first thing and only hear the second thing, this button is the mute button, and this is the solo button. When you have multiple tracks, mute will silence a track, and solo will silence every other track except that one. So I'm going to mute this, and now play from the beginning. So go back to the beginning. Here we go. Now that's pretty cool. Okay, great. Now if I unmute this track, now I'm going to hear both of them. Okay, I really liked when these two, they don't quite line up, and so I'm going to do another track. Same thing, microphone, because that's what we're doing. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of this third track, and I'm going to start about here, and I'm going to paste a whole bunch of these. And now I'm going to see what that sounds like, and this is going to start. So I'm going to mute this first one, and now we're talking. Okay, next. In the lower left-hand corner are effects editors. So I can put all kinds of effects on here. We'll get to that later. Anyway, when I press the editor button, there's all kinds of cool things that happen here. The main thing is over here. I can reverse a sound. So I'm going to solo just this last track and play it. You see? Right? So that's playing forward. If I reverse it, so I'm going to highlight this whole thing, and I'm going to reverse that. Click. Right? That's not being happy about that. Let's try that someplace else, because that's not looking the way I want it to look. So let's go up to here. Are we unmuted? Good. So I'm going to play this beginning thing. Great. So now I'm going to solo just this first track. There's that little thing. So now if I reverse that, I get this. Right? Where it plays the tape backwards. So it's as though I cut the tape and flipped it around and played it backwards. So you can manipulate these sounds in a lot of different ways. I can also change the pitch. And so I'm going to demonstrate that just for a second on a new track. So let's go with a new track. And we'll use the microphone. And those will be most obvious on my voice. So here's my fourth track. I'm just going to record some sounds. So let's solo that and record. Here's the sound of my voice, and I'm going to talk very low. Great. So here's me. Here's the sound of my voice, and I'm going to talk very low. And now I'm going to pitch shift that. Yeah, cool. Sounds like this now.
Here's the sound of my voice, and I'm going to talk very low.
So I can make myself sound like a chipmunk. I can also speed it up. So if I speed it up, it's going to take up less time, and now I will sound like a chipmunk.
Here's the sound of my voice, and I'm going to talk very low.
Etc. So you can mess around with all of that, and that's basically all the controls you need to worry about. We don't need to worry about any of these things down here. And if you want to experiment with the effects, there are lots of effects. You can see what they all do. There are far too many for me to go over here, but this is just a basics. I'm going to X this out. How to use this. So here I've got 4 tracks simultaneously, and if I play them all at once, it sounds like this.
Here's the sound of my voice, and I'm going to talk very low.
So that's the basics. I'm going to do another video about actually doing project 2.